We all want to make a positive impact on the world, but what do we have to experience to get there? This is Stripped Bare FM, where our shared stories of strategy, raw talk, and real people uplift and inspire you. Now, welcome the host of Stripped Bare FM, Catherine Contos.
Hello, everyone. Oftentimes, the shame of a sexual assault makes the victim feel guilty. Self-blame even arises. The victim keeps it a secret, too afraid to confront the situation and the person, never seeking justice. Today, on Confessions with Stripped Bare FM, I have the pleasure of talking to Melanie Jade Boulerice. She is an emergency room nurse and the CEO of Nomadic Nurse Agency. Let's take a moment right here to inform my listeners that they can benefit from learning different strategies on scaling both their life and their career by booking a quick consultation with me directly via my site, catherinecontos.com. Now back to our guest. Welcome, Melanie. Are you ready for some raw talk?
Yes, I am.
Melanie, you experienced some very difficult situations in your life. Today, you decided to reveal your traumatic experience to the world in the hopes that someone else going through something similar gets inspired by your courage and makes a decision to speak out and not live in secret. Please tell us your story.
So, yes, Catherine, my story begins when I graduated nursing school. When I graduated nursing school, it was a great time. When nursing school was such an intense 4 years for me and for a lot of other nurses as well. And I had made friends with somebody in nursing school and we would hang out often, which led me to becoming friends with their friends as well. During this time, I was 21 years old. It was during a time where I was naive. Keep in mind, I grew up in a neighborhood, a very good neighborhood. I grew up in an area where the exposure to violence or the exposure to something like this was either very well hidden or non-existent. But in my circumstance, I grew up in a very good neighborhood with a very good family. So this was very new territory for me. And this person was a little bit older than I was and kind of showing me the guide, as they call it. And we went through nursing school together. We went out together before and after nursing school for a little bit. And I ended up being friends with one of her friends where I was asked that by him to hang out, which I felt was harmless at the time.
Yes, of course you would.
Yeah, I was naive. I was a child. I kind of was looking for friends and new set of friends. Not because I was lonely or anything, just because you're young, you're looking just for something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up with a group of friends one night, and there was some alcohol involved. I drank perhaps too much, or something was slipped into my drink, still unsure of the circumstance, but it still led me to becoming quite intoxicated to where I was knocked out. And I woke up with this person who wanted to hang out with me at the time. I woke up with this person inside of me.
What exactly did you feel when you were intoxicated? Was it different than a normal, I don't know?
At that time, it was hard to say because it did feel like I got woozy quicker. But I mean, I work in emergency trauma, so I see a lot of intoxications of like GHB, for example, and GHB looks a lot like the way I presented, but it also presents as if somebody is highly intoxicated on alcohol.
And you were quite young, right? So you didn't have that much experience in necessarily, going that route of getting drunk or whatever. So you were 21 years old.
Right. I had no clue.
Yeah. So you wake up and you feel this person inside you. If you can bring yourself back to that moment, and I'm sorry to ask you this, how did you feel? Were you groggy? Were you shocked? Did you push him off? Like, what was your first instinct of emotions and then of action when you woke up?
When I woke up, the first thing I did was, first of all, I was in utter shock and I had no energy in me. My reactions were mainly internal for me because I woke up from being quite intoxicated, so like my my body was pretty limp, but internally I was like super shocked. Like I was more of like I was more stunned than anything. And until I was able to calm myself down slowly, I was able to calm myself down enough to slowly regain some energy and quick enough so that I can tell the person or try to move my body in a way that I don't want this person, because I couldn't even speak.
Oh my God.
So was it because of the alcohol? Was it because of the my shock? I till this day I have zero clue, but I couldn't speak at all. And when it took me about like 2 to 3 minutes for me to get my composure internally and say, okay, like make some type of movement or like try to say something, like, all I remember is me shaking my head a lot until I was able to say something. I ended up saying stop. That's when I was able to, you know, I felt like I was able to breathe almost at that time because it was so much anxiety was going on.
No kidding. No kidding. That moment, you must have gathered your strength, right? Pushed him off or went to the side, whatever you did. What did you tell this person at that moment when you got like because you are waking up, you are possibly drugged, whatever it is, and you're seeing this happening to you, which is not what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because you were unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up, you look at this man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are your first words to this person?
I didn't have much words to say during the moment because I was just like, I couldn't believe I was in this situation. I thought I trusted this person. I remember feeling the clothes coming off, and I was kind of dreaming at the same time. And I remember feeling like it was so weird because I felt at peace and I thought I was being prepared for bed. And I was like, oh, he's taking care of me, until he wasn't.
Right.
So that was probably the most heartbreaking part for me because I was naive to think that he was taking care of me because I was wearing like my office clothes. I was not wearing even like going out clothes. I was wearing like my office clothes because I came from working in a department where we had to wear office clothes.
Yeah.
So and there's a very strict attire because you're talking to patients, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, when I got the energy, I told him to stop, and I couldn't really push him off because I just didn't have that physical energy.
Right.
And I felt like if he doesn't understand with me saying stop, then I'm in big trouble.
Right. And you were.
Yeah.
What did you do next?
I ended up, when I told him to stop, first acted like he didn't hear me. Second or third time, I believe he ended up hearing me. And because I said stop that many times, luckily he actually got off, which, to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still like, I couldn't physically move. Was it the shock? Was it me unable to, because of the alcohol, I couldn't move. Like I just was lying in the bed and I couldn't get up and leave. I couldn't. I was actually kind of afraid. I remember how afraid I was. Because if I got up and left, one, I'm not even sure if I was apt to drive.
Yeah.
And two, like there was no Ubers at the time, things like that. Taxis were expensive and things like that. And what would have happened if I were to have forgotten something there? Or what would have happened if I were to try to leave and he'd barricade me and it'd be worse? So I just kept calm, and stayed to myself and waited until morning, didn't sleep at all till the next day. And then finally I got up and when I was going to say sun's up, and I left just because I felt it was safe at the time. Does it make sense? If I were to turn back, would I have done it that way? No, I would have probably, like, now that I know what I could have done, now that I know, my friends and stuff, I think I would have done it differently.
Right. Yeah, but the thing is, when you're in any type of situation, you just react on, and let's not forget, you were intoxicated, right? So you're not thinking like you are thinking right now. And you're not thinking like whatever your age now. You're thinking like a 21-year-old, first time experience in getting intoxicated. This is happening to you. And your instinct is telling you, I'm just going to stay here and be quiet. And you're processing too, right? Because again, you're intoxicated. You're processing what's happening. You woke up in this surreal moment in your life. And to go back and say I would do it differently, we could all say that, right? 2020 is hindsight always. But you were intoxicated. And you did the best that you could do at that moment. And I'm so sorry you went through this. Like, I'm sick to my stomach listening to this because it happens a lot. And the fact that you're so courageous to come, on Stripped Bare FM and talk about this is so courageous, Melanie. And I'm hoping that other people who are listening to this will get the help that they need right away. What did you do after you left?
I went home, I took a shower, and at the beginning, I didn't know what to call what happened. I was like, was that a rape? Was that what it's like to be taken advantage of? Is that what it like? I didn't know what to call it. I processed it as a mistake. I processed it as it was my fault. I put myself in a bad situation. I processed it as he got mixed signals, or I gave him mixed signals. Like I processed it like that at the beginning. So all I wanted to do was talk to him, say, listen, like, old water under the bridge, let's get it over with, like, it's done, like, it's not happening again. But he didn't answer the phone anymore because I guess at that time he understood how guilty he was.
Yeah.
Has he done this before to people? I don't know. Has he done this to people after? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know that after that, we didn't really keep contact. I told one of his friends that we've been hanging out with at the time, and I told my friends. I did that in a very naive way because I thought that, like, somebody would hear me out, or,
Of course.
But people actually called me a liar. I think that for me, this is what pivoted my image more than the actual trauma itself. This part was probably was a different type of trauma that came after the situation, which then led me to the next chapter of my life. And it was where I was called a liar. People were waiting for me, like parks. The thing is that what's crazy is that these people were 9 to 10 years older than me, like waiting for me in a park to beat me up.
Oh, God.
Yeah. People were calling me a liar after the situation, and people were saying that it's not true. I was like, well, last time I checked, I didn't say yes. I didn't tell him I was okay. I was not with this person. I did not agree with this. I woke up with somebody inside of me that was supposed to be a friend. Last time I checked, that's not consent.
That's horrible. You experienced exactly what anybody in this situation is afraid of, which is not being believed and shamed for it. That's horrible.
Yeah, I was very, very shamed for it. Even people in my inner circle, even my own inner circle outside of this, says, like, I guess they had a hard time believing it too. Like, I think, or maybe it was because they were shocked. I don't know. But the people that didn't react as well, I had one friend, to be honest with you, like, this was where I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'm exaggerating it, or you know what I mean? I told her this, and this girl had a tendency of comparing traumas, and her trauma had to be worse than everybody else's. And before I even realized, like, what I was dealing with, Oh, she told me she told me the story, and she was studying to be a police officer, and she didn't even tell me like, did you report it? Did you do this? Did you like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't get any guidelines or help with that. Like nine, mind you, she's studying to be a police officer. She's planning on going to RCMP and things like that. She already did police tech. So I'm thinking that I was gonna get some type of, concrete help for this, or and or help me in other directions. No, it was just like water under the bridge type of thing. So that's when I was like, okay, maybe I'm over exaggerating. It was very gaslighted, my situation.
What do you think? Do you think it's because people have this idea that rape is something completely different than something like what happened to you? Because what happened to you is rape. Do you think it's because they saw you maybe going into the room with them, or they saw you leaving in the morning? Like, what do you think? Like, it doesn't matter really, but it's like I'm trying to understand why a friend would not believe you, like would actually put you in a situation where you're feeling shame and you're feeling like a liar, and then you're questioning yourself going, am I crazy? What's going on here?
Yeah. One of my friends, the friend that was a cop, she was kind of minimizing the situation because her traumas were bigger and better type of thing. Her was a different type of reaction. But the people that were associated with this person who were called friends, and I was called a liar, was the situation with that is I have a feeling that there was a level of, it was also the way he worded it. Who they're gonna believe this girl that just popped into everyone's life that's 21 and young, and or they're gonna believe their friend that they've known all the way since high school.
Right.
What's the reality behind it?
Yeah.
So what I tried to do was, one of my friends that was friends with this person that I met in nursing school tried to hook me up with somebody else, but I kept it on the down low about what happened with this other guy. But I thought that it was a mistake, so I just tried to move on with my life. Didn't even think that I had a problem because everyone else didn't think I had a problem.
Mm.
So I just let it be. But then what ended up happening was, when I started vocalizing about it, and I started saying, like, this is my situation. I was trying to see the guy, trying to see this new guy, and I had no idea that they all knew each other. Zero clue that this guy that I was seeing, that girl that was setting me up with this new guy, was friends or went to high school or had a very close connection to the guy that took advantage of me.
Right.
Which was just messed up.
Do you think it was a setup?
I felt it was a setup. She can say what she wants till this day, but I felt it was a setup. It felt very, very, very calculated.
Wow.
And lo and behold, the girl that set me up with this guy, she ended up knowing that he had a girlfriend and I had no clue. And yeah, we ended up, the girlfriend ended up contacting me and saying, hey, you're with my boyfriend. I was like, really? You can have him back then.
Right.
I was like, really? Return, here's the receipt. Like, I didn't even know this. I says, that was it. And apparently the word got around to this girl. I meet this girl and she was like, so I heard what happened to you, and what's his name? I was like, okay. She was like, well, you want to hear what he said to me? And she's trying to throw jabs at me because she was getting on the defense that I was with her boyfriend. But I was like, listen, like, there's no more talking. Like, you can have him back. I don't want to, like, my friend, she hooked me up with him just to go on a couple of dates or do a couple of things, and it clearly didn't work out. Clearly. So you can definitely have him. Like, he's definitely yours to have back. And she was like, this is what he said about you. Some people actually went to question him about it. The guy that took advantage of me.
Right.
And you know what he said? He said, and excuse my language, but he said, well, I fucked the bitch, didn't I? I was like, okay. Now I know what position I was in.
How long was this after the event?
August, the event happened before my licensing exam. So when I heard that situation, it was probably in November I heard that.
Okay. So you knew you were definitely not having any support from your friends. Did you turn to family, and why didn't you go to the police? What was it? Was it because of the reaction of your friends you didn't go to the police, or you weren't sure if it was wrong, or because you said you were started questioning yourself?
I truly believed that it was my fault for quite some time until I heard what happened, until that girl told me what he said when I met with her. And that's when I understood my position.
So there was a lot of self-blame happening, which is very common in
Oh,
this
yeah.
situation. Yeah.
I already had the shower. I didn't think the guy didn't hit me. It wasn't like, it wasn't anything like he actually got off of me. He didn't come, he wasn't violent afterwards. He actually started ignoring me afterwards. So I was like, oh, that's not what this is. This is not that traditional stuff. And, but really, rape comes in very different patterns before and after.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you went through all that. And how did you do? You obviously got your license. You're a nursery. You actually went through the examination process. And how were you able to focus on your studies and on this exam that you've been waiting to do for years after dealing not only with him, but the shame that everybody brought on you, your friends not believing you, all of that? How were you able to focus?
I'll tell you one thing. That is why I'm here today, because this part has made me who I am today. I had to rebuild on this.
Who are you today?
A business owner. I am where I want to be in this country. I got a job in Los Angeles that, unfortunately, with COVID, I'm putting on hold, but I'd love to reconsider and take again when this is all over. To me, I am at the happiest point of my career, and nobody is going to stop me from that. Nobody is going to stop me from that, and not even the person that took advantage of me. So it's going to get interesting because when I had to get through this exam, first of all, it took me 3 tries to do the exam. If you fail the third time, you do not get a nursing license.
Okay.
So when I failed the first time, I was like, okay, this is common. This can happen. What's the glitch, like type of thing. Like when I failed the first time, that's how I thought of it. So I was like, oh, I'll figure it out.
So you persisted.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. Like,
You didn't give up.
no problem. And then after that, it was my second exam and I failed it. And that's when I hit a depression. And I thought it was simply because of the exam, me not getting it. And luckily, I worked in a department that my boss believed in me as a nurse. And usually, after you fail the urine licensing exam, they have to put you onto a medical floor. And at that time, I was fresh into the emergency room. I wanted the Shark Tank from the get go. And she was like, no, 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 I want you here. And I was very lucky to have that support at that time. But when I failed the exam, I remember crying. I remember coming to work and I remember crying and crying and crying. But I thought I was crying because of the exam, but I was crying because of so much more. Because I remember I was getting nightmares and I thought I wasn't sleeping right. And I was like, oh, maybe it's because I'm days to evening shift. Maybe it's because I need to adjust to the new work life. And I spoke to a colleague at lunch and I was sitting with her and I was like, I'm sorry, this is my situation. I'm like, can't sleep at night, having nightmares. Like, I can't even eat normally. Like, I'm gaining weight everywhere. Like, I just don't understand what's wrong. And she's like, well, what are the nightmares about? She's like, and then after when I thought of it, I was like, they're actually about him. They're actually like indirect. He's not in it always, but they're actually about that guy. And then she was like, I think you're burnt out. You sound like you're burnt out. And I was like, this is my first year into nursing as a nurse, grad pending licensed nurse, and I'm burnt out. Can you believe it? Is this job meant for me? Is this life meant for me? I'm thinking it's me, 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 me. When I realized I was burnt out, I went to go get triaged. I saw one of the doctors and I followed up and all that stuff. And then finally I said, maybe it's time that I go to therapy, like I went privately and I decided that. And lo and behold, I was paranoid about everywhere I was going. I remember I was going on my date with my ex-boyfriend at the time. Me and him were together for quite some time. But when we were first going on a couple of dates, we're sitting in a coffee shop and I had to sit staring at the door. And we're on St. Catherine Street at Starbucks that day. We had a beautiful day of shopping. Like it was near Christmas. It was so nice. And I remember I was just staring at the door. And he was like, "What are you looking at the door at for?" He's somebody that like he was so fixated on me because we were dating. Like it was a fresh love, right? He was the one that analyzed every single action that I had, noticing that like c'est pas normal. Like it's not normal how you're staring at the door so much. Like what are you so worried about? I'm like, "Oh, I used to hang out here and I let it go." A couple of weeks later, I ended up telling him what happened and he was like, and then he supported my decision and going to therapy. He was like, "Yeah, I think you need to talk about these situations." And that's when I started really exploring that, oh my gosh, like there's so much more damage. There's so much more damage that this has caused, and I didn't even realize. I was spiraling, and I didn't even know.
And today, do you feel like you're over it? Meaning you've recovered from it. You're never going to be truly, you'll always have the memories and everything. But do you feel like you're at a better place right now if you had not gotten that therapy, if you had not like continued on?
I am in such a better place now. That's why I'm talking about it, and that's why I'm okay with it. I'm able to talk about it at such ease now, without it hurting me. I'm so over it that this is somebody that actually works with me. I see him on and off at the hospital.
So do you actually have to communicate with this person?
No, I don't. Luckily.
But they're in the same building.
The same building, different shifts, but it happens where we cross paths.
And how does it feel every time you see him?
The beginning was super like reminiscing in a bad way. But what I did learn was when I got the job, my boyfriend at the time was saying to me, he works there, right? I was like, "Oh, yeah?" He was like, "Yeah." Is somebody that kept tabs on me very, very well to make sure that I was okay for my life. Like he was very good like that.
Sounds like a great guy.
He's a great guy. We were together for 5 years and he told me he was like, he's there. I'm like, "Oh yeah?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Are you sure you want to take the job there?" I was like, I always wanted to work there before this guy worked there. That was my dream job when I was in nursing school, before travel nursing. I'm not going to let this guy take away my dream job because of his vulnerability. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, this was somebody that was taking care of somebody that was vulnerable, who had low self-esteem himself. I'm not going to let that type of person stop me from getting the job that I want. At the end of the day, I see him. At the beginning, it was traumatic every so often, but yeah, I learned how to deal with it. He doesn't approach me. I do not approach him. And we keep it that way.
Oftentimes people that go through very difficult situations where something bad has really happened to them, they get to the point that they're over it, let's say. We'll use those words, but, I use them loosely. And they even get to the point where they forgive the person. Are you at that point right now? Or have ever been, or will you ever be?
Oh, I forgive him completely.
Okay.
I forgive him completely. I forgive myself, most importantly.
Of course.
I've moved on from the situation. Is there times that I'm angry? Is there times that I'm frustrated and he pops up? Yeah. Not gonna lie, yeah. But I know how to handle my triggers. That's the difference. I still go to therapy on and off. I go when I have to. To me, therapy is just like a checkup. Why would you stop the therapy?
How do you think it affected you in both negative and positive ways? Because you did say you are who you are today because of what happened. So what did it change in you as a character, as a person, as a woman, a nurse?
What changed in me was that you know the truth. You know the truth. You have your story. You were there in that situation. It made me who I am today in the sense that unfortunately, sometimes we need a little bit of trauma to help build ourselves. This is not the type of trauma that I ever wish for anybody to have themselves build on themselves like at all. But sometimes this type of trauma gave me so much resilience and a certain level of resilience that I did not have before. And I don't think I would have ever had for a very long time at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting a great job. I ended up still maintaining my job. I ended up owning a business, and I ended up being successful in what I'm doing. And I give myself that because as long as I had one person that believed in me at the time, and it was my boyfriend at the time. And if he didn't remind me of who I was and he didn't remind me of my capabilities and stuff like that, I wouldn't have known myself. And you need somebody like that. Sometimes you got to dig for those people. And it ended up filtering out a lot of my entourage, the situation.
You were probably craving for that so much,
Oh,
for
yeah.
somebody to believe in you, and you found it in your ex-boyfriend. And I'll tell you, I've seen it firsthand through my own experiences with others that I've helped and other stories. And that one person comes into a person's life and they believe in him or her, it makes all the difference in the world. It could save their lives. I'm so happy that you did find that in him, and it did give you that, he was that support that gave you your wings that you fully deserved to have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy you got that. What would you tell another woman in that situation today?
Rape is rape. If you did not say yes, then you said no. It's a no. At the end of the day, if you feel violated, if a woman feels as if their territory has been crossed in a malicious, terrible way, vocalize it. And don't be afraid to vocalize it. Find the right people. And if people are calling you a liar, you need to change your people. It took me a while to find the right people, but I found him. And those people guided me, mentored me, helped me, molded me, and helped me become who I am today because of after the situation.
I'm glad you did. What made you go public? Because it's one thing to talk about it amongst your friends, family, peers, and it's another thing to go on a show and speak about it out loud to the world. What made you do it?
Felt it was time because I'm somebody that I've been talking about it often. It's not something that's been hidden, but I felt like it was something that people can learn from. My trauma, it's made me vulnerable in certain circumstances, but with the right foundation, with the right food, with the right energy, with the right people, with the right environment, I was able to blossom from the situation. And it was a beautiful thing. And I want to give people hope that it's something that can come about. You can find hope in these situations. It's hard. It's not easy. I'm probably lucky in my circumstance compared to a lot of other people when it comes down to having an entourage. But there's some things that I'm unlucky with. But at the end of the day, you have to have faith in yourself. So much faith in yourself.
Melanie, I can't express how proud I am of you to have had the courage to be able to talk about this today. Because if even one other person hears this and they seek out the help that they need, you have saved a life. So I thank you for that.
That's where I want to go with this. It's 100%. I'm happy that I'm doing this deed.
Melanie, thank you so much for coming on the show today and speaking of your stripped bare story and just putting it out there for people to hear. And I hope that you continue thriving in your life. And I wish you continued success in everything that you do. And I thank you again for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you have a confession and don't want anyone to know? Go to catherinecontos.com under the podcast header and upload your recording anonymously. I will then broadcast your confession on Strip Bear FM and give you my advice. This could be very interesting. See you on the bear side.
That's all for this episode of Stripped Bare FM. Start living your best life. Head to CatherineContos.com for more information and resources, as well as ways to connect with Catherine directly. That's available exclusively on CatherineWithAC, KONTOS.com.